Rommens and Magoma means we've got a spare left back. Rommens or Magoma sent off, give the other one a crack. Oh, Martin's back, and Christmas is definitely over for Rangers fans. That is the fun over, troops. It's the end of the festive season, and by God, does it feel like it. Treacherous underfoot as I was walking along Shield Hall Road on my way to the game on Tuesday night. Going to see Aberdeen at Ibrox. There was that black kind of frost. It's about the pavements today. It's been sunny. It's been so sunny, like across New Year, Hogmanay, New Year's Day, and all that kind of stuff, Christmas, and that is really brutally cold, but the sun was always out, wasn't it? The sun was out, and it just uplifted you, everyone felt really optimistic, and now it's every bit as cold, but now it's dull as well, and that all kind of started, I think, on about Tuesday until Wednesday, particularly Friday. Things just got really good. Watching that game on Tuesday night, didn't even realise there was two kind of season-defining injuries taking place even during that victory. I'm standing outside like a mug, like an absolute mug, standing outside in my post-match reaction. Oh, that's us in second. We're in second place. We're doing it. We're sending a message. We just got one more game to go in this run of seven straight league games. And if we can win that one, just beating on Sunday the same team we've just beaten tonight, it's going to be even at that point in time. Martin O'Neill was starting to have an effect. He'd arrived at Celtic that very day, confirmed himself as back in post, and they just got an energy for it. And we haven't even played another game, and that's them already. The day they're back in second place. They've been kicked back into third. It's treacherous underfoot. I'm walking along Shield Hall Road at that roundabout with a KFC in one corner on the Polis, the other corner where it crosses Helen Street, and then that building, there's a kind of printers or something, there's an industrial estate in the other kind of corner, and then the other corner, it's that big building, I think some sort of sales thing. You can see the figures up on the wall. They've got the LCD clock up on the wall, where I think the folk are telesales, and they're sitting there and they've got to get the. It's kind of horrible, but that's the old McKenna Park where the Ants used to play, where St Anthony's used to play, and you're crossing there. Oh, I just nearly went. And my new trainers on, my new £35 trainers that I got from what is it, Decathlon, the place in thing that you get doing at Brayheads, the Decathlon. I always go to the designer places, and I'm kind of slipping, even though it's big brand new grips on it. And I need to watch it. You can't see it's the same yesterday. I'm walking about. It's like I get back in the house on Tuesday night, think, we've beat Aberdeen. We're second in the league. Wife was in her bed, because that's by the time I've done my post-match reaction pod and defrosted myself and I'm up the road. She's in her bed, and the house is quiet. Television's off. Lamps on left on from in the living room. And the Christmas tree's it's got no decorations, no lights on it. Or the Christmas lights have been taken down. The Christmas tree's sitting there, because it's a fake tree, and it's quite a big one. You got to put it 3 different parts. You maybe have the same one yourself. And, that gets left to me to take it to pieces and put it back in its kind of coffin-like box, and then put it up the loft. And it's harsh. We didn't put the Christmas decorations up until, just before Christmas Eve probably, so I like to leave them up a bit longer, but it's just... She's at her Christmas holidays. I've been doing all this stuff. I've been doing the podcast. It's been intense. It's like, our Rangers supporters, it's been really intense for us. We don't feel as if we've really time to enjoy Christmas, New Year, but that's all right, because the team kept winning. It's a different kind of festivity, but it just seemed like, bang, this isn't right. Wham. My Christmas mug, I've got this big Santa mug that comes out every year. It's big, man. I've got a big wide mug, big wide open mug, I'm an honest kind of guy, and this mug's the same, and it's red, and it's got a Santa in his bulging sack round the side. It's like a loving cup kind of thing. It's probably made down in the potteries. It's glazed with images of Santa and Christmas trees and snowmen, and I have my cups of tea. And it's like, it gets a bit colder quicker. Doesn't it? Because it's a big wide surface on this mug. I'm a kind of like have 2 pints of tea for every pot. I like to have a second pot, but you need it because you're eating faster and you're drinking, so the tea's going down quicker, cooling off. It's quite good. But I was back to I've been shoved to the back of the cupboard with all the other Christmas decorations. I'm eating off plates with little holly bushes on them, and wee snowmen, and pictures of Santa and Christmas trees glazed onto them. Probably it's Spode, Spode Copeland, made by doing the potteries, whatever. Probably, I don't know, little side plates that said Merry Christmas on them. Actually, said the message said Merry Christmas, and every time I was getting a wee sandwich or getting some more turkey, I would have that on it. And as long as I'm doing that, it's still the festive period. Even into New Year, it's still the festive period. And then they're all put away. I'm back to my usual mug, which is a blue tip. I've got a blue tit on it, so a picture of a blue tit in my usual mug, and it's cold and it's harsh, and I've got just back to the normal plates, and it's these little white with these kind of blue trims around the side, and they're actually quite bright. Technically they're brighter than stuff that's got a lot of red on it and all that, but the darkness of post-festive period winter is really kicking in, treacherous underfoot as you walk about. It's that black. They talk about the black ice on the road, but the black frost in the pavements when it's snowing, and then it's icing up, and then it's melting a wee bit, and the rain comes in, and it ices up and tap it, and it's treacherous and slipping. You're going to slip up. No, and Aberdeen's league position is always a kind of betrayal, treacherous. It's a betrayal of their capability against the way they perform against Rangers 9 times out of 10 over the last 20, 30, 40 years. In fact, you need to go back to the Alex Ferguson period before the way Aberdeen played against Rangers was honest. You know what I mean? It's treacherous underfoot. We go up there thinking we beat them on Tuesday night, so that means we're absolutely going to beat them. This time you got to watch where you're going, or you could hurt your ankle, you could fall and hurt yourself. Do you know what I mean? You could end up with a twisted ankle, or maybe have to put in a compensation claim against the council for not gritting the pavements properly. Where are you going with this, Alec? That doesn't actually make any sense. But that's it. Christmas is over. Rangers are back to third place, and I'm drinking out my blue tit mug. Hey, dude, folks, this is your fat egg. We won the first leg of the Scottish European Cup Winners' Cup final by 2-0 on Tuesday, conceding no away goals, and we took UEFA up on their offer of playing no domestic matches in between it. So we now head off to Pittodrie for the second leg, needing only a no-score draw, a 0-0 or a 1, any kind of draw puts us through, but you bloody Rangers fans are just demanding that we get a win up there. Just glory hunters, total knee-jerkers. He's obviously spoiled. We got to Pittodrie, where Aberdeen beat Bayern in the quarter-final. Most folk think it's a semi-final. They beat Waterschei in the semi-final. Waterschei, who no longer existed. Part of Genk, who beat us in this season's Europa League group stages. But they beat Waterschei in the semi-final. It was Bayern Munich they beat in the quarter-finals on the way to their only ever European triumph. And it was in the Cup Winners' Cup, the only time Aberdeen have lifted a European trophy. And we beat Bayern in the semi-final of our season that we won our only European trophy. It was also the Cup Winners' Cup. This is the month, it's January, where we play Porto in the Europa League. Porto, the last club we ever played in the European Cup Winners' Cup. And Porto beat Aberdeen in the semi-final of the Cup Winners' Cup to stop them retaining it in 1984. The last club that Aberdeen played in the Cup Winners' Cup was Torino in 1993-1994. In Torino, we played in the quarter-final of our victorious Cup Winners' Cup campaign 71-72 to pit us into the semi against Bayern. And the only reason that we played in the Cup Winners' Cup to play Porto in 83-84 was because Aberdeen had beaten us in the Scottish Cup final, and Aberdeen had 10 days before that, before they beat us in the 1983 Scottish Cup final, they won the Cup Winners' Cup, beating Real Madrid. Last time we beat Real Madrid in a European final. So it was Dundee United won the league in 1983. So it was because we lost to Aberdeen in the final, but they were actually the holders of the Cup Winners' Cup, that Scotland got 2 teams into the following season's Cup Winners' Cup, and we get put out by Porto, who would then go on to beat Aberdeen in the semi-final before Porto in the same season before losing to Juventus in the final in Switzerland, the 83-84 final. But that was the only reason that we were in the Cup Winners', because Aberdeen actually beat us in the 1982 Scottish Cup final as well. So that got them into the Cup Winners' Cup in the season where Celtic won the league. And then the following season they beat us again in the Scottish Cup final, but they'd won the Cup Winners' Cup in between times, so we got to play. And the only reason Aberdeen got to play Torino in 1993-94, their last ever Cup Winners' Cup match, was because we'd beat them in the 1993 Scottish Cup final as we won the treble. That's what got them into the Cup Winners' Cup in 1993. 1994, Aberdeen at Ibrox debrief pod and Rangers at Pittodrie preview pod coming to you in association with Gersnet. Check out Gersnet. It was up Friday night. We'll still be up on the Gersnet YouTube channel and all other quality streaming platforms that subscribed to Gersnet. It was Craig was hosting it, and Stuart Weir, fantastic guests, and they were reviewing Aberdeen at Ibrox, and they were reviewing Rangers versus Aberdeen, and they're previewing Aberdeen versus Rangers. Rangers at Pittodrie, kind of Janus Head type thing going on with the Rangers podding these days. I'm sponsored by Gersnet, and I'm also sponsored by As I was working down the Copeland Spode, Spode Copeland. You were at the game the other night, half-time, Loving Cup ceremony, and there's, there's no chairman, no chairman of the club there. Is he over in Dubai or something? Andrew Kavanagh is away somewhere else on the planet. Maybe back over in the States, or is he just walking the globe, making signings for Rangers in person? But with the interim CEO, Fraser Thornton, but to make up for the fact there was no chairman there, not to toast the reigning monarch, we had a German manager, actual German head coach. You know, because Windsor obviously is just a renaming of the House of Saxe-Coburg Gotha, the royal family, are all German, German stock, and we had a Mason as well, an out-and-out Mason, David Mason, the Rangers historian, and he was telling us a story that he's told so many times before, but if he's told it so many times before, how come I didn't realise? Has he mentioned the thing about the fact the Loving Cup ceremony, first home game of the season, half-time, it's what's shown on the big screens at half-time, it's obviously done before the game and recorded because the head coach is there, showing his complete disdain for drinking whiskey out of a three-handled cup. I don't know about that when you win the League Cup, but he's there, and David is telling us a story about the Loving Cup and the Holditch Colliery Relief Fund game that we played against Stoke City down at Victoria Grounds in 1937. Finishes 0-0, but we raised money at the Disaster Relief Fund, and we end up getting one of the Loving Cups. We're supposed to get it, apparently, because we were champions of Scotland, and Sir Francis Joseph had made all the, because the Potteries, Stoke City, and they made all these made just enough for all the members of the First Division in England, which was the top league back then, was it? And the team that won the Second Division and the champions. Anyway, we were supposed to get one as the champions of Scotland. It was said the other night, but the bit I hadn't heard, but I didn't realise I'd heard before, was it's made from Copeland Spode, Copeland, the Copeland Spode Works. I was there. I've told you endlessly. I'll not stop going on about it. I was down at Stoke. It was 4 weeks ago. I went to see Stoke City against Swansea on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday I nipped along to see the site. So the house and estate that's now on the site of the Victoria ground where Rangers played in 1937, Stoke's most famous ground. And the same day I then nipped along to see Port Vale's ground. Port Vale, it's the smallest conurbation to host two English League clubs, as Stoke-on-Trent, even though it's made up of 6 different towns, Stoke-on-Trent. So I went along, and I get a bit lost going from one to the other, and I parked in this little street, just pulled over. It was a Sunday morning, it was really quiet. And I pulled over on this kind of wee main street to try and check I don't have sat nav on the phone, so I was checking on my car, so I was checking it on the phone. And I noticed it was the Spode Museum. The Spode Museum. That's a type of pottery, and I'm going to see Port Vale. Port Vale's going by well done last night. Port Vale, the new manager. That's them is it John Brady, new manager? They won FA Cup last night. They won the FA Cup game against Fleetwood Town at Vale Park. Fleetwood Town. They're in League 2, whereas Port Vale right rock bottom of League 1, so they've avoided what we would call a cup shock, a giant killing, maybe not, but a bit of a shock. It was a potentially dangerous game, but Port Vale won it 1-0, and then within 24 hours today, when Macclesfield put out Crystal Palace, that's the most league places there's ever been between a giant and their killer in the FA Cup. There's 117 places between Crystal Palace and Macclesfield FC, from Macclesfield Town. Macclesfield, is that a birthplace of Ian Curtis, Macclesfield? Anyway, that's most places, 117 league places between, beating the previous record from about 18 years ago, they were saying, which is Chasetown beating Port Vale. It's 108 places between. So what a great weekend. What a great weekend in the FA Cup for Port Vale. Stoke won as well, so hopefully they're going to get each other in the next round, and that'll be crazy. But I was there. I pulled the car over. How did I get to? And Port Vale Park is built on a marl pit. You know, the white cliffs of Dover, that's marl. The white down at the bottom of it, that's the stuff you get. They help you do pottery and stuff like that. That's why their pitch never drains. It's a really infamous pitch. The Port Vale's pitch, one of the widest pitches in the country. It was supposed to be the Wembley in the north, but the pitch doesn't drain very well because the subsoil's clay. It's a marl pit that the pitch is built on. It's made of this stuff. It's the potteries. That whole area. And I'd stopped and I saw I drove past it as well. The Spode Museum. Spode, what the hell's Spode? That's stuff, that's like ceramics. That's what they used to make, the potteries and plates and stuff like that. And then there was David Mason the other day, tell me. It's Copeland Spode. I looked up, it was Copeland with an E. But as I was working down the Copeland Spode, I thought, why did we not sing that? So I'm sponsored by that. My name's Alec, do you have a schedule for the bins for 2026? Because I don't. Anderson, heaven is close and now today. The sound is in my ears. I can't believe the things you say. They echo what I fear, twisting the bones until they snap. I scream, but no one knows. You say I'm familiar, cold to touch. And then you turn and go. Feels like heaven. Feels like heaven. That's Fiction Factory there from 1984, and kids today would think I was producing a fiction as like could only be produced by a factory dedicated to making fiction. If I told them that in 1984 Aberdeen were not only they not only became the champions of Scotland, won the league in 1984, but they got to the semi-final of a European competition, of which they were the holders. You know, I think that might be the best. Is that the best off the top? Is that the best that any Scottish team that's reached a European final has done in the following seasons? You know, didn't get to retain the Cup Winners' Cup. We didn't get to defend it at all. Got ourselves banned. We won it in '72. Of course, 2008 got to the UEFA Cup final, and then we get put out by Kaunas at the first goal the following season. 2022 get to Seville, and then we get a regular old tank in the group stage of the Champions League the following season. To get to a semi-final. Rangers and Celtic did it the other way around, in that we reached the European Cup final in 1960 and then go to the 61 Cup Winners' Cup final. Celtic reached the Cup Winners' Cup semi-final, and the final was at Hampden as well, and they lost to Liverpool, 66 Cup Winners' Cup, and then they won the European Cup in 1967. But I think Celtic, 2003, they got to Seville. Was it the quarter-final of Villarreal the following season? Putting them out 70. They got to the European Cup final in 1970. How did they get on in 71? Maybe a quarter-final or something? Was that Ajax? Was that when they played Ajax? I'm not sure. But I think that might be the best kind of attempt to retain. No Scottish team's ever retained. Only won 3 European trophies. 3 different Scottish clubs winning the European trophy. But I think maybe the closest that anybody's ever come to retaining a European trophy was Aberdeen with the 1983 Cup Winners' Cup. They got to the semi-finals. They lost 1-0 home and away. I think 2-0 overall to that Porto side that put us out earlier on. That's talking about this, joking about being the first leg of the Scottish European Cup Winners' Cup final the other day. But we did host the only first leg that was ever played in the European Cup Winners' Cup final. We hosted it. It was the very first Cup Winners' Cup final. It was the only one ever played over 2 legs, home and away, and we hosted the first leg. We hosted the first ever Cup Winners' Cup final. It's something I'm really incredibly proud of. And only ourselves and Aberdeen are the only Scottish clubs to have played in the Super Cup match. It's not a final. It's not a final. It's just a ceremonial game. Aberdeen boast about the fact they won it. Well, we invented it. We had to invent it because we've been banned for defending the Cup Winners' Cup. So let's pretend this is where we did genuinely think it was our centenary year, and we'll get Ajax along, who are the European Cup holders, and have that little game. UEFA don't recognise it, but we know that we invented the Super Cup. So Aberdeen, it was home and away as well with Hamburg when they won it. So we're the only 2 clubs to have hosted the Super Cup. It's not a final. It's not a final because you win the other European trophy. It's not. Nobody goes, oh, I've won the Champions League. Good. That's us one stage away from. It's not like the Super Bowl where you've won your conference and you go into a bigger final, so to speak. It's a ceremonial game. You know, it's just. If you want to put it as a star on your badge, I'm not trying to start things because I'm jealous, but I think it's a bit pathetic, it's a bit embarrassing. But there you go. That's what. My name's Alec Anderson, and I was walking about the old local area yesterday. I managed to get out just in time to get a bit of. To catch a little bit of sun. It was amazing. The sun was amazing. It was obviously it'd been dull all day. It was about 4 o'clock or something like that, and I'm just dotting about the streets here. Bit of fresh air, try to catch a bit of rays. Vitamin D you get for the sun. Vitamin C just shows you how unfit I am. I don't even know the name of the vitamin, but it was kind of the clouds up the sky. The sun was like a big kind of furry disc, like a fog and mist and what have you. Or the ice seemed to be in the air as well. And it just got that massive glow as it's about to set below the horizon. But the clouds and that are so kind of mad off in the distance. Like sometimes the clouds look like hills. They look like peaks of hills. And because there's a tiny bit of blue sky off in the distance, and you can actually see, like Goat Fell, Arran, you can see from the bit I stay in Glasgow on a really, really clear day during the summer. So sometimes you're like, is that? Oh no, it's actually just clouds in the distance. but they look like mountain peaks, and the sun's setting behind that as opposed to setting behind actual mountains. And the clouds are a bit like snow as well, and this blue sky is up there, this gold disc of the sun. But it's just going to, it's the real, where is the real horizon? The sun is setting behind something, and it's setting so quick because it's winter as you're walking around, and the clouds, the kind of silhouette, the clouds edges, this bit of the sun, but it's like traced with kind of gleaming light, like a strip light, like Christmas lights and trees. But Christmas lights are white, like snow, or multicoloured. This is a kind of yellowy orange, like a kind. It's got a kind of. It's so brilliant bright that you think, what the hell is it? It's not luminous. There's more to it than that. It looks like it's kind of on fire. It's like somebody, like a kid's drawn a cloud, the outline of a cloud with a pen, which is the ink is made from sunlight. It's gleaming, it's gold, it's fire, and then it hits me again. This majestical roof fretted with golden fire. That's the line written by Bruce Robinson for Withnail's soliloquy at the end of Withnail and I. I've been to that part when Withnail does the soliloquy at the end of little monologue at the end of the film Withnail and I. That film was made the last year Aberdeen won the league last year. Aberdeen became the last non-Old Firm side to win the league in Scotland. I think, was it 1986? 1986 Withnail and I came out in 1986. I think it was made in 1985, maybe released it came out in 1987. I think I've been through this before. But it was definitely made around about that time anyway, and I've been down there to that park, the very park in which it does at Regent's Park, and the benches are still there, but the wolves, the cages are still there. But when I was done, but the wolves have gone. This is I was born in that year that Withnail and I set. The greatest decade in the history of mankind is over. Now the greatest period of peace and stability and prosperity for Western man is over. Am I going to start talking about what's happening in America? Am I going to start talking about... No. I'm a football fan. I'm a Rangers fan. We come on here to get away from reality. And that's what the football's all about. You know, the greatest run that Rangers have put together this season is it could be over if we just... It's basically Connor Barron. I found out we'd lost. He was the man of the match against Aberdeen at Ibrox. Man of the match. And DUJON Sterling, who's always already been in trouble with the police, but was playing the other night, come on as a sub the other night. So that's fine, he's still fit. No, he's out. He's out as well. It's all fallen to pieces. It's an absolute tragedy. The greatest run in the history of this season for Rangers in terms of the league. It's probably coming to an end. But just made me think to myself that some guy called Will I Am, Shakespeare, he did like a 12-inch remix version of that scene in Withnail and I, and it was like, I have of late, wherefore I know not, lost all my mirth, forgone all custom of exercises, indeed it goes so heavily with my disposition that this goodly frame the earth seems to me a sterile promontory, and he starts going on about it. This is where I start losing it. So I've got his album here. This most excellent canopy of the air, look you, this brave o'erhanging firmament, this majestical roof fretted with golden fire. This majestical roof fretted with golden. That's what the clouds were saying. That's where he's got it from. It's an actual description of the clouds as the sun goes down. They are fretted with golden fire. That was the amazing light I was seeing yesterday. Why it appeareth nothing to me but a foul and pestilent congregation of vapours. It was a bit of a downer, and so was I. And it's Elsinore, set in Elsinore. And Elsinore, it sounds like Elfsborg, which is Jimmy Tellin's old club, even though they're Swedish. But when you go to Elsinore, where it is today, I don't know what it's called today, but it's just up the road from Copenhagen. And I've been to Copenhagen, and you do that thing where you get the train over to Malmo, you do Sweden, and it's just kind of conjoined by the Oresund, the bridge and the tunnel and all. It's absolutely fantastic. But it's Danish Copenhagen. I've been in Copenhagen. I remember walking down the streets in Copenhagen and thinking, that sky reminds me of Aberdeen. It just reminds, it's that kind of, when you got up to Aberdeen and thought, Aberdeen is up far north and up to the east, and it's kind of Scandi, you know. We had the islands up there that were occupied by the Vikings for years, and this up Helja and all that kind of stuff, and it just made me think, but the whole thing about Hamlet, Copenhagen, Elsinore, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. I don't think there's going to be any hubris Rangers don't win the league this season because we've not got ahead of ourselves. We've really enjoyed ourselves the last few weeks because it's been such a change to the rest of the season. But yesterday, you could just feel that the tragedy was coming on us because Connor Barron has been lost. And I'll get to it, folks. I'll just do my usual stuff. Do the snagging items from the post-match reaction pod after the Aberdeen game at Ibrox the other night. It was so cold, I was completely losing it. There's a lot of snagging items, none of them in any way entertaining. You can see there's a little tear of cold coming down my nose towards the end. His face is bad enough when there's a phone shoved up against it. But I look cute in a hat, though. I look cute in a winter's hat. It's like a wee bonnet on me, and it's like me pixie. When I got the big camera shoved in my face, and it's out of sync, and it's just... I was talking about Under a Blood Red Sky. I did the whole thing. I was New Year's Day singing about U2's New Year's Day, and the bits about I'll be with you today. And I'm going to change it again. I will begin again. That's Martin O'Neill saying that's Martin O'Neill's back at Celtic. But Under a Blood Red Sky, that was Aberdeen. If you're going to mention the reference, you've got to point out the references that you're making, like a bad impressionist telling you who he's impersonating. Sean Connery. I'm Sean Connery. If you're going to do that kind of stuff, you should go the full way. Under a Blood Red Sky. That was pertaining to the fact we're playing Aberdeen. I just thought it all made perfect sense, but just after New Year as well. But so that was that. And the Outsider, I did a very good job explaining that. I didn't finish off the point I was making. The adverts for Outsider that were coming up in the LCD advertising the hoardings at Ibrox, they go multicoloured. I thought it was maybe supposed to be the rainbow flag, and it was Outsider, and it was totally exploiting the gay experience or people have been through who've had to come out to their parents and their friends and what have you. It just makes you different. And I was doing the whole thing about cisgender, and it starts with psi and ends in DER. You can make that into a kind of cider as well to exploit trans focus. But that was just the point I was trying to make there. It was really, really poor. I said number 43 in 41 minutes. Nico Raskin scoring, and I was talking about how number 43 picked number 43 squad number. Nico Raskin scored in the 41st minute the other night, and that was the postcode for his home city of Brussels, which it isn't. He comes from Liège, so it's a postcode in Liège. So I totally got that wrong, amongst other things. I've taken a wee note of everything I got wrong because it was so much. But yeah, I think that's me covered everything. I was also, Del Boy asked if I'd missed Bomber coming on. Del Boy's total legend, one of the many legends of this podcast. Just comes on the comment section as a bit of crack every now and then. It's fantastic stuff. Del Boy, good enough to listen to my prattle, and he was asking, did you miss Bomber the other night? I totally forgot. My brain was frozen. It was so cold. And I did, John Brown coming out at half-time, kind of starting to rival Derek Johnston for what he did at half-time against Motherwell, the home game against Motherwell in December. But I didn't hear the first thing Bomber said. I heard the second bit where he was, this mob, let's put 4 or 5 past this mob or whatever it was he said to Aberdeen. We're all peeing ourselves and cheering them on. It was good stuff. But I missed the first bit because I was in the middle of a conversation. Any conversations, guys asked me, where is he? If you're Drosten, is a guy, he's a season ticket holder, but he's a lot of stuff on, so he's not been that regular. I think he just got the season ticket a couple of seasons ago. So still kind of chatting to him, catching up, and he's saying to me, and I'm starting talking to other boys around about, I've been starting next day for over a decade now. Standing at half time because we're starting having a chat and all that, try to keep ourselves warm. And he's saying, I'm a Drossen. I grew up. I stayed in Glasgow for decades now, but I was originally from a Drossen, grew up in a Drossen and all that. And he says, was it George? George then that runs the Ibrox bar in Tenerife. And I've never been to Tenerife in my life, and I don't know George. And I said, no, I don't. And he's looking at me like I'm an imposter. Like, this guy's not a real Rangers fan. He doesn't know George that runs the Ibrox bar in Tenerife. He's never even been to Tenerife. Is this guy fucking making this up? I'm like, just because I've not been to Tenerife doesn't mean to say I'm no Rangers supporter. Just because I don't know everybody in the Russian that supports Rangers, the half of Russian supports Rangers. You know what I mean? It just doesn't mean I'm no. So that was I was in a bit of downer. I must admit, I was trying to explain myself. How many more podcasts do I have to do before folk actually think I genuinely support Rangers? I said I missed the first bit of what Bomber was saying, but it's quite notable now. Mark Haitley, I saw little excerpts of his interview with Rangers Review. He's over there doing the Dubai Loyal, Legends thing. I've not been to Dubai either, right? So I don't know. But he was saying, I had a word with Andrew Kavanagh, and we don't hold back the ambassadors. No, the ex-players like Bomber and all that, Derek Johnson, they're getting Andrew Kavanagh to tell what this club requires and what's. They're getting a bit. It's quite good at it. It's like a little level of power that's in there. What do you call the guys? No, it's not the Centurions. What do you call the guys? The guards. the Praetorian Guard, maybe something like that, but it's good. It's quite good to know that they're on there going, oh, by the way, Andrew, I don't fucking care if you sack me. I'll fucking know more about Rangers than you'll ever know, son. I don't care. That £75 million doesn't get you into the hearts of the Rangers supporters. You go to Gooten. I love Bomber. I love Mark Haley, but take their word before anybody's loved Derek Johnson. And it's good to know they're in there, getting them told about what's required. My wee epiphany regarding fans. I had a wee epiphany the other night. I was doing... I think it was because Celtic fans had just gone from protesting outside Parkhead to absolutely and getting beat 3-1 off Rangers, all want to sack the board and not buy any product from the club shop, and suddenly everything was done. And it's true, it's coming true. I mean, Martin O'Neill was just that same. They're second in the league again instantly as soon as Martin O'Neill suddenly it didn't even count because Martin O'Neill was back. And I thought, this is just. And I'd been through the other side of this with the Rangers support this season when Russell Martin was in charge. And this wee epiphany about Rangers fans hating their club so they can, not Rangers, any football fans, hating their club, publicly hating their club so they can claim a kind of personal victory to compensate for the lack of a team victory. I realise it's a kind of cowardice, a way of dissociating yourself from your club because they're losing, because the team's losing in the park, and it's in such a way that you can then jump back in. I pushed them to get rid of the guys. That's why we're better now. With my protests and my booing at the end of every game and stuff like that. My refusing to go there or buy any products, like basically being the opposite of a supporter of that club. That's why I'm the best kind of supporter, because now they're winning. That's because of what I did. It's just total cowardice as far as I'm concerned. But it reminded me of my old point about Celtic. Back in the day when Martin O'Neill was first at Celtic, and anytime they lost, it was all about their loss. If they can make more of their loss, that can mean more than your win. You know what I mean? Somehow your club doesn't actually count because look at them, we're crying and stuff like that. We're shouting and bawling at our own team. We're crying on the pitch because you have Helicopter Sunday and all that. I'm thinking, why would you ever sit and stand there and cry? Why would you just get away and embarrass it? But it's a kind of form of still winning, basically. Our defeat means more than your victory. It's the opposite of sportsmanship, and I've always despised it. Like Martin O'Neill coming onto the pitch. Remember coming onto the pitch with Neil Lennon? We beat Celtic at Ibrox. Neil Lennon still playing. I mean, Neil Lennon was sent viable devices by Rangers supporters from, not from the Ardross and Salkits area, where I'm from, but he was sent viable devices from Salkits post office and stuff like that, and he would take in sectarian abuse and whatever, but he get beat 2-0 at Ibrox, and Martin O'Neill brings him out onto the park at the end of the game to go up to the Brimland, up to the Celtic support, and he's like, this guy, it was all about Neil Lennon, he was a martyr. Next time we played them, there's a fucking flag of a game they lost to us. This is, the moment where Martin O'Neill came out onto the park with Neil Lennon, I just have to lose. It gets a flag. It reminded me of precisely why I was so embarrassed by us behaving this way at the start of the season. We stick by our club. 50,000 in the first division. In the third division, we stick by our club, and that means you stick by their losses as well as their wins. They're bad players as well as their good players. They're shit managers and head coaches as well as their good managers and head coaches. I'm talking on Tuesday also about how the preview pods are, they're not getting posted until far too late to give you a chance to watch them. This is what's happening right now. The preview pods are getting posted far too late to give you a chance to watch them before the games that those preview pods are previewing. It's exacerbated by the fact the pod is too long. The longer it takes me to do it, then the longer it's going to take for I can post it as well. But this is partly why it's so late getting posted. It's just a total flustercluck. Get a 90-minute pod previewing the Old Firm game at Parkhead was posted 95 minutes before kick-off, so it's just not practical. And the problem is my preview pods also include, as I'm admitting to it now in my intro, my preview pods always naturally include a debrief of the previous match. My immediate post-match reaction can't cover it. They're so adrenaline-fueled, they may miss a little detail or two, as I've just explained, like the score or the name of the opposition. Or all the substitutions. That's my old man moment. I can't remember substitutions. That's what I realised. I was post-menopausal when I just can't remember. Outside Ibrox, doing a post-match reaction pod, live, out in the fresh air, I can't remember. So I sit there while the substitutions are getting made. Generally, I just try to take in the game the way I normally would. I'm not trying to be a journalist or anything like that. Christ, who would want to? The way they're getting treated and the things they're forced to do for views and what have you, but I don't like sit and just take a note of stuff. I know this is a diary of a Rangers fan more than anything else. But I'm trying to do a wee kind of chat about the game, so I try to take a note of this. I'm like, right, okay, that's the one thing. I'm like, okay, that's Asgard coming on at half time. Oh, 55 minutes. There's somebody, and every single time I've forgotten. I know the subs that come on. I struggle to remember who went off. And as for the minutes, the times, and who went off, sometimes it's one sub, sometimes it's two. If there's a triple substitution at Ibrox now, you just hear me going, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" If you're up the back of the main stand, folk are like, "What's his problem? We're winning 3-0." But that's my old. I just cannot remember the subs, so that's why you need a kind of debrief pod. When you do the next pod, you're going to talk about stuff more accurately from the games. So why not? I thought this is I'm putting a debrief in with a preview pod. So why not? I thought to myself, on Wednesday morning, because it's making my pods far too long, I could come good in my promise of posting the next preview pod in plenty of time before kick-off in the game it's previewing. Why not split up the debrief pod and the preview pods? You've got all day Wednesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday. We've got 4 clear days between the 2 games against Aberdeen. Give the troops 2 45-minute pods, like one on Thursday, full of all the kind of post-match interviews and fallout from Tuesday's game. And that way, you can maybe even wait till Saturday tea time to post the preview pod and incorporate into that how the other scores went that day. Celtic won 4-0. How it affects what Rangers have got to do on Sunday. But then I realised, A, I want to be drunk by tea time on Saturday. B, you want less pods from me, not more. C, I would just end up doing 2 times 90-minute pods. I'm just verbose. I would end up doing 2 times 90-minute pods and not 2 times 45-minute pods. D, Hearts don't play until Sunday lunchtime, and their result affects us now because we got up to second for a couple of days, didn't we? So different, And E, the debrief from Tuesday is the preview for Sunday in this case because both these games are against the same fucking team. How did Aberdeen go on in the last game? No, what kind of form are they in? It was against a big blue team for Glasgow and they lost 2-0. You know exactly what kind of form they're in because you were there. You were there. So that's another reason to hate Aberdeen, or a rare reason to love them, depending on your attitude to more content from a verbose post-menopausal forgetful man with the hairdo to prove it, because we're playing them in successive games. It's not even worth the preview pod as the debrief pod. It's the same team we're playing against. The two have to go together. Thanks to John Buchan, another guy who gets in touch with the podcast the other day to tell me I'd mentioned it in the preview pod. Why is it we're playing Aberdeen in 2 successive games? Why are we playing them in 2 successive league games within the space of 4 days? I thought it might have been because of UEFA offered teams. It was a chance. I don't know if it was UEFA or UEFA always offer the chance. It was certainly an offer in Scotland anyway. All the clubs and 3 of us, Rangers, Celtic and Aberdeen, and who else was Europe this year? Hibs. We're all in playoffs. We all get European playoff in different competitions. You could take the weekend between the 2 legs. Both legs were played in the space of 6 days or 8 days, and you could take the weekend off. You didn't have to play a domestic fixture the weekend. I thought maybe Aberdeen had done that, and we were due to play them then, but instead we went to Paisley. We didn't take it off because we got gubbed 3-1 at home by Bruges, went to Paisley, salvaged a draw, went to Bruges and get beat 6-0. So it worked out well for us not taking a new team gelling together. You've got to play and get as much game time as possible, Russell. But I thought, but John told me it was because it was a League Cup semi-final. We played Celtic that day. We were supposed to play Aberdeen in the league. So thanks for that, John. John Buchan, an easy name to remember. 39 Steps, writer of the 39 Steps. So John, you get any big ideas about yourself because you got him. Alexander Anderson, best plumber in Glasgow, same name as myself. So don't get hear yourself, son. Then, but thanks for that, John. Love it, and it is an unusual situation. We had this back in November 2017, the 2017-18 season, where we beat Aberdeen 3-0. And I think it was a Wednesday night, and 2-1 at Pittodrie on the following Sunday. We beat them twice in a row. Hopefully that's a good sign. Although we only beat them 2-0 the other night. Maybe that means we're destined to draw 1 each tomorrow. But that was that was. It's not the first time we've done this, but that was a tad more unusual because we were actually in the middle. Everybody thought we're certainly negotiating with Derek McInnes, who was then the Aberdeen manager. Whatever happened to him? He was then the Aberdeen manager, and we were negotiating with him. Everybody thought he was going to come to Ibrox. It was a logical next step up. We wanted him to come in as manager. But Graham Murty as caretaker manager, like a Martin O'Neill type, figure, and as caretaker manager at the time. And it was made even more unusual by the fact that Rangers pumped him home and away. Only we could get into negotiations for a manager to take on a manager who was in the process of getting gubbed by us in 2 different stadiums in successive games in the same week. But it has happened before. But I was worried before I even knew about Connor Barron being injured or DUJON Sterling being injured, or that Celtic had beaten Dundee United 4-0. I was worried by BBC reporting Scotland on Wednesday night doing a feature on Danny Röhl's Rangers revival. It's like his kind of use of in that he showed his post-match reaction interview with Sports Scene after the game on Tuesday, and he was talking about under the line. This thing he's talking about when his time at Sheffield Wednesday. I think they're asking him about his revenge, the fact he had won a great run, knew that shoe up into 2nd place, they were 8th when you took over. It's only natural, but it seems to be bracketing the thing. It's starting to talk about it and it definitely is an achievement. It definitely is clear progress. It's a real evidence, irrefutable evidence that we did the right thing to get Danny Röhl, and he's a fantastic selection as our head coach. But in terms of winning the league, which is what you always want to do when you get a chance to do it like this, even though I don't think that's not been the ultimate aim this season. It's been general improvement, but it feels maybe a bit starting to tempt a bit of fate. And I love the fact he used the phrase. He was talking about when he went to Sheffield Wednesday. Everybody, it's the same as Sheffield Wednesday. This was upsetting me a bit, the way he's talking about this. When I turned up at Sheffield Wednesday 2 years ago, they were under the line. It's obviously, I think it was a brilliant phrase. I don't know if it's a phrase that's really used in English, but he's translating it directly into English. I don't know if it's a German phrase. I don't know my German, but they're below the relegation line. The line that you see in Sky Sports News when they're showing you the league tables, the cut-off for the teams that are going to get relegated. Sheffield Wednesday was just, nobody thought they were going to avoid relegation. We're so far gone at the bottom of the league. But when Danny Röhl went in there, he pulped them up, and eventually they avoided relegation that season. And now it's like he sees Rangers as, below the line, being this no man's land. He was talking about it in the pre-match presser yesterday. This no man's land of being outside the kind of teams that are challenging for the title, and now we're in there. We're definitely in the Tito race, as he would call it. So, it's not his time at Sheffield Wednesday. It was a kind of, this is what I do. It comes across as, this is just what I do. Folk are panicking, then I come in there and I sort it out. His opening line in the post-match presser on Tuesday, I'm sure, he just kind of said, next 3 points. That's. What would you think about that tonight, Danny? You've beaten Aberdeen. That's 4 wins in the trot. Yeah, just next 3 points. I think what he means is, it's a process. That's the next 3 points. Now we've got to concentrate on the next 3 points. Don't let's start getting carried away with ourselves. That's all it is. It's just 3 more points. But it sounded a bit, next. Just who we going to beat? I'm seeing too far into this. I'm definitely over-analysing it, but I think he just meant it's only 3 points, don't get carried away. But it could be construed by opposition hysterics looking for a reason to channel the only kind of Scottish angle on overcoming the odds, i.e. thinking a hard man. I'll show you, man. Who the hell do you think you are? I'll show you, pal. And this is what Aberdeen were thinking going into tomorrow's game. Or by depressed kind of panic merchants like me. It could be seen as a tad cocky. It won't be on Röhl's part, I'm sure. Danny Röhl, doesn't he? I think after all, he had the skinny on Peter leaving the Aberdeen caretaker in his pre-match presser for the Aberdeen game at Ibrox. He was, he's 18 months ago, he was caretaker manager, and he won so many games, and he took Celtic to penalties in the Scottish Cup semi-finals. All right, Danny's done his homework. He's not taking any chances. There's no arrogance there. He's definitely doing it. But I'm waiting for this run to end more realistically. A more kind of realistic looking compared to what Rangers have been doing in recent seasons. It just feels like you're just waiting for the arse to fall out of it. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself with the tragedy talk and all that. It's a bit OTT, but I'm definitely worried about this game at Pittodrie. That's the very place, Pittodrie, where the undertow created by our horrific start to the season could come into play and undermine a squad which is due a few more kind of sideways steps in its overall growth. We haven't won at Pittodrie for a little over 3 years since Michael Beale was in charge. In fact, it was Michael Beale, I think, only his second competitive game in charge. It's ironic given that Aberdeen's last win at Ibrox is what got Michael Beale the sack. Although you may feel we had a kind of victory there last time. Last time we went to, I'm hoping this is the only time we'll play Pittodrie this season. But last season, we was the 13th of April 2024. Conor Barron was the captain. It was a weakened side we were fielding because we were between the two legs of a European quarter-final against Athletic Club of Copenhagen. I thought it was in Copenhagen, Elsinore, Denmark. Tragedy. I meant to mention the fact that, of course, Rangers and Aberdeen have both played Copenhagen in European competition. And here it was a quarter-final for Rangers in Europe, and I was in Llandudno. And I was on holiday, and it's my wife, so she had no choice. That's the only time she can take the holiday. So, and Rangers are out the league race, and I'm like, but away, amazing place, Llandudno. It's the first time I've really properly been to Wales. I've been to Cardiff to see a game, Wales against Poland, and had a couple of nights in Wales, but that's the only other time I've actually been in Wales. This was the first time I had probably a week in the place and did the whole north of Wales, went to Anglesey and stuff. I really, really enjoyed ourselves. This was last April, really interesting place. Llandudno, my wife had decided we were going to go there, and I thought, I'm just thinking, old seaside town, it's going to be, what's a place? It is phenomenal. It really properly grand, properly interesting, breathtaking scenery. Highly recommend. I can highly recommend going there. And then the sun had come out as well. It's turning into beautiful weather, and it was only like our second full day there. So to be, can I just go and watch the fitback? Can we just go and sit? There was nothing really to watch, and I was already going to be watching the second leg. I was down there for the second leg against Athletic Club. I was going to be watching that, so I was going to be checking out things on the Thursday night. So I didn't want to chance. I thought, no, we're going to. So just your wife, come on, do the proper things. And we're walking along Llandudno, along the promenade, and I'm checking the phone, of course, You can't help it. A wee fly look, crowds everywhere, really busy. And I was, we're 1-0 down. We're 1-0 down. I was, fine. This big massive pier at Llandudno, I think they've done it up recently, big Victorian pier, goes on for miles. So I'll go walk down the pier. That's what I'm trying to distract myself from what's happening. And I'm passing these little chip shops up the top of the pier. Oh, it smells fantastic. Just my breakfast, basically, but these smell fantastic. But we walked on down the pier, and then we get down the bottom of the pier, and everybody's out boozing, because we're getting towards 1 o'clock. Everybody's out getting bevied in this kind of amusement arcade. They're sitting out in the pier. And there's a lassie who, despite the fact it's sunny and we're in April, it's freezing down there because you get the wind's blowing in off the sea, and she's got a big fur coat on. But she's doing that thing of, she's obviously the singer. She's been hired, but it's that thing they do now where she's got a karaoke machine and she's kind of singing off the karaoke machine. She wasn't. I thought, well, that's just somebody did a bit of karaoke. Oh no, she's really good. Oh no, she's just using the karaoke machine as her equipment. That's her amp and what have you. That's quite good. It's made me gasping for a pint on it. Check the phone. We're down to 10 men. Ross McCausland's been sent off. Walking back, turn around this pub at the bottom, circle around it. We go right out to the very end of the pier and circle around, walk back up, and let's sit on this bench here and just take a look at the view right across the bay, right across the promenade. Absolutely gorgeous. Christ, we're 2-0 down. Let's fucking get out of here. And I'm walking back up to the top end of the pier. And my wife says, do you want to get chips? I'm like, oh, aye, it's getting aye, because she's not anywhere near as bad as me when it comes to, but yes, do I want to get chips? I need a distraction for the fact that Rangers are about to, because if we lost that day, Celtic had won the league, and to do that at Pittodrie, to have them taunting us, is what the league title race, as you know, was well over by that point, but there's certain ways of losing it. And I saw we pulled a goal back as I got to get the chips, feeling a bit good. We pulled a goal back, Egerman scored, superb. And then it was all seagulls everywhere. We took them back up to the top of the pier. There's wee bits you could sit down, but they're all really busy. Everybody's having chips. It's up these kind of cones of chips, and the seagulls dive bombing everybody to get further chips. A bit of a problem there. So I was wanting to get out of the sun as well, because it was getting quite brutal once you were out of the sea air. And I was sitting down with the chip, and I found this bit kind of under trees. It was a fountain or something, an unused fountain we're kind of sitting against. It wasn't a proper seat, just something to sit against. And these seagulls are trying to attack. I thought, this is just less Aberdeen, Aberdeen, fucking the seagulls, and having a go at you, folk getting in your face and all that. And I thought, I want to enjoy these chips properly. I'll just check. It must be getting towards the end of the game. Nisbet 3-1. No, it's BBC Sports updates, score flashes. I think it was 87 minutes. I was really late in the game. 87 minutes. Kevin Nisbet 3-1 to Aberdeen. So, is that done? 3-1. Down to 10 men. Phone in the pocket. Might as well enjoy the chips. I would tell you that they tasted like ashes in my mouth, but it's chips by the seaside with salt and vinegar on them. They did not. They tasted fantastic. I thought this is going to be murder, and I thought, well, thank God I'm in Llandudno. I actually felt that kind of way. Thank God I didn't watch this game. I think it's the first competitive game I hadn't seen, that I hadn't seen live that season, either being there or watching on telly. And I'm like, I picked the right one to miss. Then I suddenly thought, oh no, wait, it'll be Celtic. They're Celtic fans. I'm a Rangers fan in Llandudno, following the score. There's going to be Celtic fans everywhere, and they're going to start. You'll start hearing the roars and all that, and the final whistle goes. That's them won the league. Oh, you don't know what it means. They love performing to foreigners, don't they? Oh, I don't know what it means to us. It's like, mate, I'm going to bump into one of these guys. It's going to ruin my holiday. So I finished the chips anyway. I got the phone back out, getting the grease off the thing. I was getting the phone back out. Full time 2 each. What? Full time 2 and Yanis Hadji, he called it, what the hell's, and but you could see all the updates that you'd missed, and it was Nisbet 3-1 VAR check, Nisbet goal disallowed, 2-1 Aberdeen, Hadji goal, full time. It was hilarious on Conor Barron. It was, and I was sitting there in Llandudno, and all I can think about is the warm glow of Barry Town. Aberdeen have played Barry Town in European competition. We lost 2-1 under Clement in his first trip there. Sorry, our first trip to Aberdeen last season. Our first trip to Pittodrie last season. The 2 each game, that glorious way of sickening all the Celtic supporters in the world, as well as all the Aberdeen supporters in the world, at the same time. It was worth it. It was small time thinking, but it was funny. We didn't get a lot of glory last season. Let us have that. We lost 2-1 under Clement the first. I remember Bajrami scored. It was Nicky Devlin. It was in the middle of that run under Jimmy Thelen, where they were going to be second. So they were going to be the main challengers to Celtic, and it lasted for about 2 minutes. But within that 2 minutes, they beat us 2-1 at Pittodrie. Of course, they did. Bajrami equalised in the second half, but they went on to win the game. It was also, I think we drew 1 each there in Clement's first trip to Pittodrie the season before that. Remember the long high ball over the top? It was Goldson, Balogun, who's to blame? And it was Majowski. Bojan Majowski scoring for Aberdeen. Tav equalising in injury time with a penalty, but I think we had another chance, we had a golden chance to score at the end of that game. We didn't take. April 2023, Michael Beale's lost there 2-0. Scales of Majowski scoring for Aberdeen, and then in our next league game we beat them 1-0 at Ibrox. Todd Cantwell scored. So we had 2 successive league games the other way around, Pittodrie then Ibrox. Lost 1, then won 1. In the following weekend we beat Celtic 3-0 at Ibrox under Michael Beale. Todd Cantwell scored in that one as well. But while that's the last time we met Aberdeen in successive 2 league games on the trot, there was the Scottish Cup semi-final in between those 2 games against Aberdeen that time, which we lost to Celtic. Those games were a fortnight apart. But December 2022, Michael Beale's second competitive game in charge of Rangers were 2-1 down, 5 minutes into injury time, and up steps Mr. Scotty Arfield twice. That was hilarious. It's one thing Aberdeen have really sickened us all. They specialise in sickening us, in betraying their league position to sicken us at Pittodrie, especially down the years. But the last couple of we have managed a couple of hilarious ones ourselves back at them over the years at Pittodrie, and that was an absolute cracker. Scotty Arfield too has just gone to Livingston, back to his hometown club, just cutting his time short at Falkirk because he wasn't getting the game time, so he's off to Olivia. All the very best to him, and all the very best to Neil McCann and Billy Dodds, who've taken up the reins at a draw today. They draw with Livingston today, so I don't know how they're regarding that, but it's a point on board for a struggling Kilmarnock team, so I hope they do the business. Neil McCann looking like he needs a job, and he always needs. He's just far too enthusiastic. He's ready to go. He's busting to get involved. He could sit and analyse games forever. Even I'm sitting watching sports scene, but I'm going, Neil, going to calm down, mate. That's just too much information. I need to pause it and write stuff down, and then go back in. Definitely needs to be a manager. Whereas Billy Dodds is on the other side of things. He looks like he needs a reason to get. He's like myself as well. He needs a reason to get off the couch. And I can't slag MD, but he'll no mind it coming from me, who's 10 times fatter than Billy Dodds will ever get. 2 absolute legends. Love the 2 of them, and I hope they do the business at Killie, like Scotty Arfield. Do the business at Livingston, except when he's come up against Rangers. So let's get to the new signings. The new signings. Let's start with the good news. It's two in. At least that old Scottish thing. Somebody dies and then there's a Wayne born because it's 1 out, 1 in. We've got, although typical Rangers, we can't even confirm the signings. This is Saturday tea time. I'm talking, still no confirmed. These 2 new signings, they must be medicals or personal terms have been agreed or whatever, so they might not actually happen. But the 2 injuries are definitely happening. The new signings, of course, at the time of broadcast, I say the new signings, they're not confirmed, but the injuries are. Danny Röhl never seemed so German in yesterday's presser, was when he confirmed the injuries, but refused to get ahead of himself on the signings. It's Germany. They recovered from losing 2 world wars, and the country being split in 2 out of 3, if you count the Saarland. Tuur Rommens, 23 years old in March. He will be been playing first team football for about 4 years at Westerlo in Belgium, managed by the Belgian top flight, managed by Issam Sharai, formerly of Rangers, the coach Issam Sharai. He played at Genk as well. I think he started off at Westerlo as a kid, then went to Genk, who we know only too well, and started getting first team football there. Then he's come back to Westerlo and he's had a couple of seasons there, I think. So he's been playing first team football for a while. A Belgian under 21 international, that's a great standard. Nico Raskin, Belgian under 21 international when he arrived at Ibrox. €3 million. I think there's a €0.5 million kind of addition to that, an add-on. I think if he gets, I think they get 15% of it. It must be a certain amount of appearances. They get a €0.5 million to make it up to 3.5 million or 3.5 million quid. There is a bit of a difference, but not that much when it comes to silly money of transfers. And I think they're getting 15% Westerlo of any sell-on price. So he's obviously highly thought of. He's 5'11" and he's a left back. Not necessarily kind of instant and permanent demotion for Jayden Magoma, who's been a left back for the last couple of months, but he's been a constant Jayden Magoma, and at just 19 years old and 5'9", that's he needs a break. I think he needs a wee rest. What an improvement! He keeps talking about job sharing, Danny Röhl, when it comes to substitutions and whatever. So he's very into managing the load for players. What an improvement under Danny Röhl for Jayden Magoma. But we had to go 5 at the back, I think, to engineer that improvement. And his amazing goal at Tannadice is one of the reasons we didn't lose at Tannadice. Is he and Emi Fernandez was more to blame. Were torn asunder down the left-hand side in the first half. I think he needs a break, Jayden Magoma. But there's him and also Tochi Chukwuani. Again, Sturm Graz have confirmed that Chukwuani, they've agreed terms with Rangers, but he hasn't officially arrived yet. He's a whole 2 days older than Tuur Rommens, 3 inches taller, and he's a sitting midfielder. Is he a 6? I don't. He seems to be a sitting midfielder. He played the whole 90 minutes for Sturm Graz when they beat us 2-1 in Russell Martin's penultimate game in charge in October. I can't really remember much about him because I don't watch the opposition really. I'm too busy looking at Rangers through the gaps of my fingers over my eyes. He's a Danish under-21 cap, Nigerian parentage, Danish under-21 cap. He gets the odd goal for his clubs and for all the youth levels that he's played for Denmark. He's already had over kind of 4 years first team experience at Nordsjælland, Lyngby and Sturm Graz. He must know Mohamed Diamandi because he was there. He was at the Nordsjælland school. Nordsjælland most famous, of course, for beating Queen of the South 2-1 at the Schreiber Excelsior in Airdrie because Palmerston couldn't host European football, wasn't up to scratch in the UEFA Cup in 2008-2009 because Queen of the South had lost the Scottish Cup final to a Rangers side who qualified for the Champions League via finishing second in the top flight. It all comes back to Rangers in Europe. But I must know about Mo Diamandi because the two of them were at Nordsjælland at the same time. But in the wee story you'll have heard by now about Tochi Chukwuani is that when he left Nordsjælland to go to Hellas and Verona in Serie A in Italy, but very stringent medical revealed that he had a minor problem with his heart, which he had an operation to rectify. But by the time the operation was over, Hellas had sacked their manager. The manager that wanted to sign Chukwuani, the deal was off. So he had to go back and start again, kind of thing, at Lyngby, who we beat in the qualifiers for the 92-93 Champions League group stage before we played Leeds, and we played them in Copenhagen. They played the Copenhagen. And the only game I've ever seen in Denmark, it was at the Parken Stadion in Copenhagen, and it was Copenhagen against Lyngby. That's no any day at all with this transfer. But he went to Lyngby and then he went to Sturm Graz. So he knows a wee bit of hardship, a wee bit of setback and how to respond to the setback. The main thing is we're getting in permanent signings, I think. The headline news here is we're alive. we're doing stuff, we're active, as Uncle Monty, as Withnail says. If I hadn't told him you're active, you'd never have got the cottage. We're active in the transfer market this January window. A lot of us, well, me anyway, I was worried about the fact we didn't have any signings coming in like the 1st of January. And Andrew Kavanagh says, we're going to do it anyway. Nothing to do with the fact we're crap in the summer. The signings we got in the summer were an absolute disaster. We're going to do something in January anyway. Even if that'd been brilliant, we'd still be buying players. That's what I took is what he said in Dubai or whatever he was talking. But it's good. We're looking at midfielder Dan Röhl. For Sunderland, Danilo, we're going to get rid of Danilo. Dan Röhl, who was, I think, the captain of Sunderland when they won promotion from the Championship in England last season, the playoff final or whatever like that. But he's not getting a game this season as he takes a step up into the Premier League. Same for the winger, Roamin Mundel. I've not been watching Sunderland at all this season, but they're doing very well, and these guys are not featuring as much as they would like to. Other Championship clubs looking at Dan Röhl. And Romain Mundel is attracting attention from abroad and stuff. So Sunderland are, offering these guys. I think they want to have them out on loan. We're supposed to be interested. Don't know what end will come of that, but we're active. We're very active for permanent signings. Good to get a couple of permanent signings in there. It's the fact we've spent best part of £8 million. Makes me feel good in a really silly way. You've got to see the quality of the players. They've not even officially arrived yet, but we're out there. We're spending money. We're going to bolster this squad. But also, it's been confirmed, I think it was Stephen McGowan, for the Herald, is confirmed that we're interested. We made inquiries about Kieran Bowie of Hibs. Hibs are looking for 6.5 million. They're looking for 6.5 million Hibs. Yes, so I think we should start with an offer of 650,000 until they get serious. But Championship clubs and what have you are probably looking at Bowie. 8 goals so far this season, 23 years old, Scotland international. Very, very good movement, very good finishing. He's definitely a real prospect, but he's no 6.5 million. Kieran Bowie, but we're supposed to be interested in him. Röhl confirmed in his pre-match presser that he's unspecifically confirmed that players will leave. The players will be leaving in this transfer window. He has had conversations with them about it, but what I took from the way he said it was, I've had chats with players who don't want to leave. The guys still, they want to fight for the place. I think it's a combination. He's basically covering all the eventualities. I think there's guys who, think they're due a first team place and want to stay around to fight for it, but he's going to tell them it's not going to happen. You need to go. And there's guys who maybe are looking for a move that he's trying to convince, no, you should stay here, and I think you're just the cusp of getting into the squad. You could become very useful to us. And there's people who just want to leave, and he's like, you can leave. So he's had all these conversations. He said, so there's going to be a lot of movement going on at this point in time, which is why things could be funny around about this game against Aberdeen at Pittodrie. DUJON Sterling, he had a small muscle injury. This is the injuries, the never-ending story, according to Danny Röhl. It's a never-ending story. Our injuries, just especially when we're starting to do well. 2 to 3 weeks for DUJON Sterling. I think he now moves into. I think DUJON Sterling can now officially be moved into the Ryan Jack and Kemar Roof territory of somebody who's just never going to play as often as we want. And it's a territory which involves players who, when they do play, despite having frequent long-term and short-term injuries, when they do play, it just breaks your heart because they're instantly bloody great when they play. They don't need 2 or 3 games to play themselves back into fitness. No, I think Ryan Jack scored the only goal of the game against Kilmarnock in his first game back for 2 or 3 months, didn't he? When we played June 55 season at Ibrox, and Kemar Roof would just come off the bench for 2 seconds and score a goal and get back off before the end of the game. I think DUJON Sterling is key to what we've achieved, getting ourselves back into a title racer in the festive periods, and yet he's missed half the games. He's been brought back in as a sub to maybe run out. Right, take the whole game off against St Mirren before we go to Parkhead. Play the whole game against Celtic at Parkhead. Brilliant. Come on for 20 minutes at the end against Aberdeen. Clean sheet maintained. And it was also confirmed, I think, I just saw a tiny bit of the interview that Danny Röhl's had with Sky, and they're part of their package in the build-up tomorrow's 4:30 kick-off at Pittodrie tomorrow, live on Sky. Confirming that there was a police incident, that he has been involved. He's got into bother DUJON Sterling. You all heard the rumours, the stories that I think he's crashed his motor or something near Glasgow city centre in the early hours of last Sunday morning. Röhl confirmed that it had been a police matter. but he'd had him in for an earnest chat. It's a learning moment for him as well, for DUJON. So hopefully I'm not writing DUJON Sterling off. I never wanted this. I never wanted to write off Kamal Roof. I never wanted to write off Ryan Jack. If they can only play for 2 seconds at a time, it's worth it, because it's so worth it, because they're so good. That's the thing, they only improve us when they play. To this thing of get rid of them. I think we've got enough money now. It's not going to be a waste of money to have them on the wage bill, but it just breaks your heart, because when they come on and they play, they're brilliant. There's never going to be. But Connor Barron is just a kind of, has wee injuries every now and then, but of course it's the minute he becomes like man of the match, as soon as he starts to be seen as the player we wanted him to be, that's when he gets injured. Knee ligament damage, not going to require an operation, just going to require a lot of injections. He's out for 2 to 3 months. He scored for Aberdeen at Ibrox. They captained Rangers at Pittodrie, but I think he's not going to be able to get a goal for Rangers against Aberdeen tomorrow or anytime soon. Connor Barron's been the glue that holds this kind of Danny Röhl jigsaw together. No, the cement, the kind of wet cement on this. It's decent bricks, really good bricks he's got to work with. Some of them better than others, but he's managing to put them together. Flemish Bond, because we've got Nico Raskin. I'm now getting Tuur Rommens in there. No, Raskin's a balloon. But anyway, I think Connor Barron has just become the kind of cement. It's still wet, it's not dried yet, that's holding all these bricks together. Danny Röhl tries to make a pretty decent wall, a pretty decent building. He had to get man of the match. Connor Barron had to get man of the match from Sky, at least. I think that whole of Ibrox wasn't outraged when Nico Raskin got the sponsors man of the match on Tuesday night, because Raskin had played really well. He would be the second best player in the park the other night, but we all thought it should be Connor Barron. Apparently Sky had given it to Connor Barron. He passed the eye test on Tuesday's man of the match. The game before he's injured, that had to happen. Then he has to have an interview, post-match interview, where he's set up both the goals. He's got the assist for both the goals we scored the other night, and he's talking about. You saw him. I didn't watch all of the game back, Sky, but I watched the first half and little bits of the second half, and at the end of the game, he's out there and he's shaking hands. You saw Majowski shaking hands with his ex-teammates come down the tunnel, very perfunctory, very, very, oh, you're a traitor. But Connor Barron, he's up shaking hands with everybody in the Aberdeen technical staff and all that, and they all love him. They clearly all love him. And does a post-match interview where he's getting the man of the match award. I know he can talk about how Tav helped him, for one of the goals he set up, and how all his teammates are due the praise. And it's not he's just fucking brilliant, just loving the wee guy. And that's him. He goes and gets himself. He's missing for. Danny Röhl was saying in the presser yesterday, him and Raskin have got a great relationship. He talked about how they were setting the rhythm. Only Nico Raskin has one possession more times for Rangers than Connor Barron has so far this season. I'm distraught, and that's how you do it. That's how you become a fan favourite at Rangers. You don't do anything offensively bad when you're first playing for Rangers. B, you put in some notably solid performances. C, you're part of a Rangers team that wins at Parkhead. D, you run the next game on your own. And E, you get injured. And during that 3 months recovery period, you will, in the eyes of the Rangers support, improve with each game that you miss. There'll be 30,000 at Auchenhowie for Connor Barron's first training session back in the grass. There's going to be 50,000 there for his first training session with the ball back at Auchenhowie. And by the time he actually comes on as a sub at Ibrox in his return game, well, by that time, Parag Marati will have to have brought forward the redevelopment of Ellen Road to have a beam back. There'll be 50,000 at Ibrox, there'll be 100,000 in the streets round about Ibrox, and they'll just need to use the fact that he's got Ellen. That's the only other stadium he's got to hand, being the chairman down there. 53,000 capacity, new capacity for Ellen Road, apparently. Marati will have to get that sorted early to get Rangers fans in the overspill for the beam back to Ellen Road for Connor Barron, our hero, the guy, the best player Rangers have ever had by the time he comes back. And we actually had a beam back when Rangers played Leeds in the 1967-68 Fairs Cup quarter final. The second leg was at Ellen Road. We get beat, we get put out, but we had a beam back at Ibrox of the second leg of the leg at Ellen Road. So there's a wee tie in there. So about Rangers in Europe. The one thing about Connor Barron, I'm now trying to make up for the pain of losing him at this point in time. I'm trying to go the other way and just, actually, when I think about it, he's crap. He's no big deal. He's no big loss. He only played the last 20 minutes against St Mirren. No, we beat St Mirren before we went to Parkhead, so he only played in the last 20 minutes of that game, and he came off with a whole... I mean, in the last 20 minutes when St Mirren scored, it looked like that's the best period they had in the game, so there you go. He came off with a whole 3 minutes to go against Aberdeen on Tuesday, didn't he? Come off so obviously the manager was wanting to get rid of him. And we were 2-0 down when he came off at Tynecastle. We were 2-0 down when he came off at Tynecastle. And by the time the game finishes, it's 2-1. So notably improved with Conor Barron getting taken off. But we're hardly going to miss him. Danny Röhl coped with Souttar. Remember on a panic, or I certainly was anyway, but a panic all the time when Souttar and Cornelius were injured. We were losing the two of them, our two starting centre halves. That was just before this great run of games, great run of results we've been on. It's part of the game. And Röhl has said that the injuries we've been suffering from are different. They're different injuries, different kinds of injuries. It's no like there's an endemic problem at Ibrox. Okay, let's start talking about Aberdeen, who we're up against, because something I did notice, still part of the debrief, which is also part of the preview. Lutz Fanningsteele. I found that quite amazing when I was watching. I didn't know about this. I didn't notice this was going on at the time when I was watching the game from the main stand at Ibrox. Never heard of Lutz Fanningsteele, who is the sporting director, technical director of Aberdeen. What a boy. I was watching his interview before the game, the pre-match interview, and that's fine. He's a sporting director, technical director. Just sacked their manager 2 days before. He should be getting interviewed on Sky before Aberdeen's next game. And then Peter Leven come on for his interview as the acting as a caretaker manager, Peter Leven. So that seemed absolutely fine. But I was getting a bit kind of almost egomaniacal kind of vibes off him. He was talking about how he was going. He does this whole thing of basically echoing what Kevin Thelwell said. We had to listen to Kevin Thelwell talking about back in June when he was sitting next to and presenting Russell Martin about how the sporting director should be there for a bit of continuity. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe this wasn't what Kevin Thelwell was saying, but a bit of continuity, so that even if you sack the head coach or whatever, he's still there. He knows the shape they want to play to, the style they want to play to, and that can help. And he then declared that the relationship between, he was asked about it, but he said, no, the relationship between the head coach and the director of football is the most important at the club. I think this guy might have a bit of an ego. And I didn't realise he's actually had a book out and stuff like that. He is an egomaniac. He's a character, as we say. He's a bit of a character. He was saying that Jimmy Thelen, it's like he's coming in October. Jimmy Thelen's been there since a year before that. But he's coming in October, and it's the type of the style of football he was describing, wanting Aberdeen to play, kind of aggressive front foot stuff. I don't think it really tallies up with what Jimmy Thelen was trying to do. And I was starting to imagine, maybe it's because it's a guy in his 50s with long hair. I'm just jealous. I was starting to imagine that he's perhaps maybe just wanted to gun for Jimmy Thelen. He's felt like if I get rid of him, I'll show that I'm great. I'll be the number one man. Because he's a book called The Unstoppable Keeper. He was a goalkeeper in his playing career, the itinerant playing career. German, Bayern Munich wanted him when he was a kid as a goalkeeper, but he thought, no, I think he'd get caps, underage caps at some level for Germany, but he said no, he wanted to stay with his hometown team to get first team football, and then I think he realised eventually that he wasn't that good a goalkeeper. It wasn't international class anyway. It wasn't Bayern Munich class. He's probably kind of verging on non-league class, looking at the clubs that he'd played for, but he decided nothing. This is actually quite good. This is the kind of thing I would do if I'd had the ability to play football to a professional level. He kind of determined he was going to become the first guy ever to play in all 6 confederations. CONCACAF, CONMEBOL. He played for I think he played for a couple of Canadian clubs, no Vancouver Whitecaps or Calgary. I think he played Otago, and the standard. He's not playing in like the A League for Wellington. He's playing for Otago, or I don't think the A League was there when he was a player. He goes to some club I'd never heard of before, but they're in Brazil. He's playing in Brazil, and he goes to the only club he's ever managed before. He's in the technical area on Tuesday night. He's not just sitting on the bench for moral support for Peter Leven. He's up there striding about the technical area, having chats with Peter Leven like, I'm telling you what to do. As far as he's concerned, they're co-managing. Peter Leven's no admitting to that. Nobody else is admitting to that. But he's clearly seemed to be gunning for this. But as a player, he'd gone to Otago and he'd kidnapped a penguin. And that's against the law in New Zealand. But they kept this penguin in his bath. I think by that point in time, clearly thinking this will be a great chapter from a book. And his book, The Unstoppable Goalkeeper, which I've never come across, is sold out in the Aberdeen club shop. I just looked it up online, and it was the Aberdeen club shop that came up. I think part of his deal to be the Aberdeen technical director or sport director is that you get my book, and it's a best-selling book. He gets it in the club shop. But this is he's thought I'm not very good as a player, but I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to get a career out of this, and he seems quite self-promoting. So Aberdeen finished fifth last season. They were the Scottish Cup. They won the Scottish Cup, and I tell you all that on Monday, didn't I? I tell you that on Monday. But apparently, Fanning Steele was with Aberdeen, supporting commentator. No, Derek Ray used to work in BBC or STV. Derek Ray back in the day, back in the 90s. He did little league roundups, and then he'd be, of course, this German football expert, Derek Ray, and an Aberdeen fan. And Fanning Steele had a great career as a TV pundit as well, and a consultant, this kind of thing. So he's in there working with Derek Ray on covering the German, English language coverage of German football. And I think Derek Ray's just been telling him about Aberdeen, his team. I won the Cup and all that, and big support. Why be the third force in Scotland? I think it's between us and Hearts to see. And Fanning Steele's thought, I'll come over there now. I'll take over there. That sounds like somewhere I should go. And he's there. He's there now. They're still 8th. Aberdeen, as they were before they lost at Ibrox, where they were when Jimmy Tellin was sacked as a manager last Sunday, where they were losing to Falkirk. And Falkirk, that's Falkirk, the grave of visiting head coaches who finish again there in 8th place in the SPFL Premiership, and they will be 8th no matter the results on Saturday. Unless, as should happen, Celtic beat Dundee United by more than 4 goals. Celtic beat Dundee United by 5 goals. That would push Dundee United below Aberdeen. Aberdeen would go up to 7th, drop United to 8th. The old firm and the new firm are having symbiotic seasons of symbiosis. But Peter Leaven on Sports Sound, he sounded like he expected to be coach again for this game, and at this point in time, it is tea time. It was 4-0 to Celtic against Dundee United. Aberdeen are still in 8th. But he was saying he expected to be the manager, or the head coach, the caretaker manager, when they played Rangers at Pittodrie. And it makes sense when you think about the fact that unless you're an Eskimo, like you can ski or something like that, there's probably the airport's probably inaccessible. There's only one road, I think, into Pittodrie with the weather they're having up there. Scandinavian football, your Eskimos in there, it's on the up. It's always been pretty solid. Aberdeen is part of Scandinavia if you come from Ardrossan, as I do, despite not knowing George for the Tenerife Bar. They've won 3 home league games this season. Dundee in October, Hearts in November, Kilmarnock in December. We could be their January scalp. Clearly I wrote that down, and as I read it out now, I'm just thinking, fuck. But that's how I feel. They're winning 1 home game per calendar month. That's the run they're on, Aberdeen, and they haven't got one for January. So they've had 4 draws at home: Dundee United, St Mirren, Livingston, Motherwell, and again, varying impressiveness, those draws. They've lost 3 at home. We need to be their 4th home loss of the season. Great line, Alec. It's well worth writing that down. We need to be their 4th home loss. It's just, especially after listening to, I'd heard a wee bit in the radio as I was telling you my post-match reaction pod, driving in, get through the Clyde Tunnel, get cut off. I was listening to Sports Sound to get the Rangers team, any updates, and it was Tom English and Michael Stewart getting kind of, not split up, but laughed at by Willie Miller. So I listened back to find out what they're talking about, because it was obviously they were arguing about Aberdeen, the state of Aberdeen, and I'm thinking, well, we're playing them next, so I'm playing them again. Might as well find out. And I listen. So many podcasts and that, fan podcasts and that, they're trying to become little news empires and do updates. And it's a transfer window. I'll react to Rangers transfers and stuff like that, but why would you ever want to be like BBC Sports Sound? You get that, and then Sky, Sutton and Boyd on Sky. It's just pantomime. It's unlistenable. I'm walking along listening to my headphones all day, and it's just 2 grown men screaming at each other. It's like watching it's the Real Housewives of Orange County or New York or whatever it is, and it's just the actual argument doesn't matter. The thing that started the argument doesn't matter, and there's no way of telling who's won the argument because the point they're making is so petty. But it's just about whatever they're trying to out sarcastic each other, and just. It's like 2 straw men having a straw men argument. It's really unlistenable. It's all about their egos. It's unbearable. You get no fucking content out of it. You get no information out of it either. But I think Aberdeen, reading between the lines, are feeling quite bad. They're kind of self-hating because they had to sack Jimmy Tellin, and now they've got I mean, he was out in the park at full time, this fan in steel, shaking hands with other Rangers players, and Danny Röhl and that, and he's up at the Aberdeen supporters. I had no idea this was happening. It's quite weird. Sky were asking Peter leaving at the end of it, and he was like, "Oh, he's a football man, so it's good to have somebody to bounce ideas off." And I'm thinking, "Yeah, you're hating it, mate. He's totally disrespecting you." Jim Gillespie, St Mirren CEO, second bid. We put in a second bid for him after we knocked him. We let him go last time because we got in Patrick Stewart as our CEO. No, Fraser Thornton's doing the interim CEO bit just now, but we sacked Patrick Stewart. So we're going from a guy that worked with Man United for years to a guy who works for the Buddies. Good Scottish core. Getting a good Scottish core, that's what it's all about. No relocation fee involved. There's no relocation fee involved, obviously, for getting a guy for staying in the Paisley Road. He's absolutely fine, equidistant. And I think, Ali McCoy, was it 3 times before Ali? We bid 3 times for him before he signed. But Danny Röhl, I think it was the 3rd time of asking that we got him. So Jimmy Gillespie is being courted, and the rumours are that he's going to become our new CEO. It's not just players we're trying to sign just now. So I think being the CEO in St Mirren at a time where they've had 3 top 6 finishes and won the League Cup, that equates to Rangers winning 3 in a row in the league and winning the Conference League. So that'd be quite good to get Jim Gillespie in there. Blair Malloy, the Rangers Review, he was asking Danny Röhl at the press yesterday. This is the whole thing with the stuff about the signings. It was the minute we mention a signing, we need signings, and really happy to have two signings on the cusp. On the cusp. Danny Röhl's talking about he wanted physical ball winners, but also guys who can move the ball. To basically augment this good group of players he already has, and get them to push them a bit further. But the main thing is for me that we're active. But the minute you talk about a left back, who I think we need, I think Tav's on the downslope. Dujon Sterling's constantly injured. We need to get a right back as well. And the strikers, Danilo can't handle it. We had somebody fill in at 10 the other night, but Danilo playing at 10 the other night, we need to get another 10. The minute we start signing one player, it's like, what about the other positions? What about the other positions? They're a panic now as well. But yeah, he was asking, do you need to get a number 9 in? Do you get another striker in? And Danny Röhl said, it's not just about the 9. In general, we have to increase our goals. Oh my God. It's not just about the 9. In general, we have to increase our goals. He can guarantee that we're working on briefing, on bringing in players for different positions. That's the problem, to write stuff down. I can't read it. Danny Röhl was guaranteeing just that he'll be working on bringing in players for different positions, and it's just how would he get the goals. And it's something I noted in the post-match reaction pod, because Big Emi Fernandez had just gone. It wasn't his second top scorer, but I knew that was his 5th goal. But it was his 4th in the league. That makes him joint top scorer for Rangers in league goals this season, on 4. Centre back. Tav's got 4 as well, at right back. Now, he does push forward. And Big Chermiti's got 4 goals, all in the league. Half of Youssef Chermiti's goals were scored at Parkhead. So that's a bad situation. Remember, Fernandez's 5th goal was against Alloa in the League Cup back in August, and we're all thinking, yeah, that's your level, mate. That's all you'll ever do. You'll score against minnows in the domestic cup competitions. Where were you when we were playing Queen's Park a few months earlier? But they're thinking but no, he's turned into a joint top league scorer, because there's a 3-way tie, as I say, for the top scorer in the league. Tav, Chermiti and Fernandez on 4 each. In all competitions, it's Tav on 7 goals. Gassama's on 6. Fernandez, big Manny or Emi Fernandez, is now on 5. Majovski's on 5. Chermiti's on 4. And you've got Moore, Asgard, Curtis, Raskin and Danilo are all on 3 goals. So spreading the goals is fine, and not scoring that many is fine, as long as we keep clean sheets. But Tuesday was Röhl's 7th clean sheet of 13 league games in charge. More than half of his league games in charge have finished with a clean sheet. One of them is a draw against Falkirk, mind you, which was a setback. But the main stat, what I'm trying to say is that I think Rangers teams in the past that have won stuff, won the league, we've spread the goals. You'll have somebody else in the league as a top league scorer, or somebody who plays for Hearts or Celtic has scored more goals, twice as many goals, whatever, as anybody else at Rangers. But we spread the goals across the board, and that's probably the best way to be winning games, to have different scoring options. It just makes you feel a bit safe if you've got a striker. But then, Cyril Dessers is totally wildly outscored any of these guys, and we never felt as if we were going to win the league with Cyril Dessers playing up front. It's just about getting the games won whatever way you can. I think the main stat is that we've got 41 points from 21 games just now. That's us. Celtic are 2 goals ahead of us in goal difference. They've nicked back into second place, and they've played a game less. But that's an average for Rangers of almost 2 points per game so far. 41 points from the 21 league games we've played so far. If we maintain that, that kind of level will finish probably on 75 points, exactly what we finished on last season. It's not going to be enough to win the league, 75 points, I don't think. But we consider our disastrous start to the season, you'd probably be okay. But we would struggle to achieve second place probably maybe this season. Celtic, for example, they just pumped Dundee United 4-0, but they need to win the remaining 17 games in the league to end with 92 points, which is what they finished with last season. They would need to win every single game from now at the end of the season to equal their last season's tally. But our average points tally under Danny Röhl, Danny Röhl's 13 games in charge, is just under 2.5, almost 2.5 points per game, which would get us to around the 80-point mark, which, of course, in a season where nobody's going to achieve 90 points, gives you a wee chance of winning the league. So don't panic if we slip up at Aberdeen. It's going to be that kind of season. God, there's so much still to say, folks. Sorry, what we got? Oh, it's an hour and 25. It's going to be a 2-hour pod. This is the problem. I need to do 2 pods. Danny Röhl's press conference on its own is like a half-hour pod. I'll try and rattle through this. Sorry, it's going to be so out of sync. And again, Andy Hillis, just a legend in life, never mind on this podcast. He got in touch last night to say, I look forward to your preview pod getting out at 4 a.m. on Sunday morning. I told him it will be 3:55 a.m. and not a second later, and I'm looking good. I'm looking good for that promise just now. It might even be 3 a.m. if this pod goes out. You just get no. I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing this to you. I don't know why I do it to myself. I need to put out multiple pods or just not talk as much. The starting 11 for tomorrow. No bothering into that. Well, we look at Aberdeen first. Aberdeen's record at Pittodrie this season, played 10, won 3, lost 3, drew 4. This is in the league. They beat Hearts, that's a good win. One of their losses was to Falkirk, that's pretty bad. And one of their draws was Livingston. So, another loss at home in the league. They haven't lost at home in the league since the 26th of October. That was Hibs that beat them. Motherwell beat them at Pittodrie in the League Cup quarter-final. That'd be, September probably. But they lost at home to Strasbourg in the Conference League, but Strasbourg did win the Conference League group stage, and their manager has just joined Chelsea, so there's no disgrace in that. Shakhtar Donetsk beat them as well. They won the UEFA Cup in 2009. Shakhtar Donetsk, huge club. No disgrace losing to them. They drew with Noah of Armenia at Pittodrie. A bit of disgrace in their 3 home Conference League games. But I think on Tuesday they were taking it in turns to fill Nico Raskin. It's like their Director of Football had taken the kind of populist temperature and decided he wanted to provide a new Neil Simpson to help to get the manager's job, to help the punters to cheer him into the manager's job. Also, they put in a couple of players for just their second start of the season, and Fanning Steele's pre-match interview was all about Aberdeen needing a style which was more aggressive. I think Raskin is in danger on Sunday. His health's in danger, and Diamandi's set for a red card for retaliation. I assume Aberdeen are going to be up for this, and so we have to take their first half performance at Parkhead as a lesson in kind of storm weathering, but also remember Aberdeen's storm will be physical rather than slick or kind of slightly. Celtic were physical in the first half at Parkhead last week, but they also played some decent football, some fast football. So it's maybe not as bad as what we faced against Celtic. We're basically up against 11 Tony Ralstons on Sunday. Don't back down, but don't react. It's what I'd say to Rangers. If we can, take it to them. Take it to them in the way we did to Celtic in the first half last week, this time at work. They won't be able to hit us in the break the same way, I don't think. I hope not, anyway. But they've still got some pretty useful players up there. Stuart Armstrong, Kevin Nisbet, good players. Use the Tynecastle experience we lost there in December. A tight ground, crowd right on top of you. Use that experience to kind of quieten the crowd. They're all just trying to work through their shame at sacking the only manager who's won in the Scottish Cup in the last 35 years, I think. But then again, the Fanning Steel grandstand, and it goes beyond technical director fronting up. He stood in the technical area with Peter leaving. He's trying to become the co-manager. Aberdeen might be about to crack. I think they're going to be right up for it. We expect them to be up for it, but maybe we're just expecting, because we don't know them so well, because we're not involved with Aberdeen every week, thank goodness. We don't know really what's going on there. But from what I could gather from in between the hysterical arguing on Sports Sound, BBC Sports Sounds, I think Jimmy Tellon's sacking has hurt them as much as it hurt Jimmy Tellon. Peter leaving was praising their attitude and their aggression after the game on Tuesday, but I didn't see too much of that beyond the first half hour. Lots of petty fouls, yes, and we have to keep our cool and exploit that. I don't like that he explained, I don't like that we explained to the world what Tav was explaining to Conor Barron and Nico Raskin for our second goal, but I do like that it came from a third different taker of a set piece, getting us closer and closer. In the space of 2 minutes, it was a Tav free kick, then it was a Magoma corner from the Govan stand side, and then the Conor Barron corner from the main stand side ends up with a goal. And also Fernandez was having his shirt pulled. If Raskin hadn't scored the goal, I think Fernandez was having his shirt pulled. He get pulled to the deck. Could have been a penalty for us. So rein in the set pieces on them. Rein the set pieces in on them, Rangers. That'll get under their skin. But take our kind of warning. Learn our lesson from how easily they did get in behind us 2 or 3 times in that first half on Tuesday night. Bilalovic has had 4 days to brood on his misses against us. He's either going to be dropped for this game on Sunday, or he's going to love the chance of having kind of instant catharsis just 4 days later. Danny Röhl's presser, I want to touch on this because it really was, I felt it was very intense. We're in a good way. We are in a good way. That's one of his phrases he's using just now. Obviously, we're in a good mode just now. We're feeling good. That's one we keep saying. We are in a good way. It's a beautiful expression. But his presser was very intense, even with him being so calm. I think the news, the content of his presser on Friday was quite dramatic. He's letting us know that he's gutted by the injury to Barron in particular. He's working the line between confirming new signings. He's walking the line between confirming new signings have arrived, and he's been encouraged that we are being proactive in the transfer market, which he's in turn balancing with the fact his current squad have done so well, and he clearly doesn't want to discourage them, the players he's got under his tutelage already, but while he's also trying to keep the current squad's feet on the ground, while also, as I've said, he's hitting this kind of, it's a weird note, I don't think it's a bum note, but it's perhaps one I'm not hearing properly, about how this is him doing what he did at Hillsborough, except at a different end of the table. It may come across as arrogant to my kind of small-minded bit of Scottish sensibilities, but it's probably just his way of giving us some edge and confidence. He kind of spelled it out at the end of his presser, which was something that was echoed by Conor Barron in his post-match interview on Sky on Tuesday night. We're defying the doubters. This is our new routine. Seems to be the kind of thing that Danny Röhl was trying to say yesterday, that us winning like this is the way we should be. But it feels like it's a second phase in his work, his job at Ibrox. And he was saying what I'm trying to do, and again, he's really explaining himself in a way that I'm not comfortable with. I think that it's nice for the players, perhaps. Maybe this is the way to do it. It's quite self-effacing, but try to keep the way we're operating to ourselves, I would think. But he says the first thing is to win games, the second thing is to implement your style of football, and the third thing is to make a togetherness with the fans. And we're at that third stage, basically, says Danny Röhl yesterday. This is Michael Grant. I think it's Michael Grant at the Times now. Used to be the Herald Michael Grant today. He's maybe at the Times. The journalist was asking yesterday at Auchenhowie or Ibrox, wherever the presser was. He says, "There's a second phase in your work. Have you moved into a different phase now because you've got yourself up to, at that point, we're second in the league?" And he said he can sign players now. He's talking about how he'd one substitute. This is another one, but it sounded kind of big-headed, but it's the way it came out. He made just one substitution at Celtic Park at half-time and then told his players to play a different way, and the way they turned that game around. You know, what a reaction. You're thinking, is that down to you? But then he quickly said it was his players. The main actors are my players on the pitch. It was quite intense. And maybe I was just intense in the way I was breaking it down, but some journalist asked him, "You're a little bit under the radar in the title racer. In the title race before this, you're a little bit under the radar, Rangers being so kind of far off the top when you first arrived at Rangers. Now there's expectation on you. Is that going to change things? And he just comes straight back with, at this club, you're never under the radar. There's always expectation. I thought, on yourself, Danny. You know this club so well. He was saying that he's happy with how we've improved as a group. We're still not at the end where we want to go. We are surprised with a lot of good results at the moment. I don't think he's saying that he's surprised that Rangers have won so many games since he arrived, or there's always on the edge of nobody was expecting us to do this. I'm kind of blowing people away. But I think he's trying to boost the players. He was surprised that we are not in the no man's land. We are really involved in a race. It's fantastic. But but 4 wins in a row is good, but 5 wins in a row is better. It's important to understand we have to improve more parts of the game and consistently over minutes. It was quite. I think it's just getting lost in translation. I think he's just trying to say this is a moment we have. I think he's trying to package what we did, what we achieved in getting from 8th to 2nd place in the league, and now it's time to absorb that and move on. Take that in your stride. You've done the improving bit. Now it's about consistently delivering the level you've proved you can get to. It's quite a fragile kind of balance he's trying to strike there, because we're not anywhere near the finished article. I think we're still really fragile in our ability to beat teams. But it was really, really interesting. We're in the cusp of the next phase, or we're going to go backwards. That's the thing. This starting 11. What's my starting 11 for tomorrow? Absolutely no idea. He keeps talking about this job sharing thing. DUJON Sterling was having his load managed on Tuesday because he was feeling a bit tight after Sunday. Tav ended up playing in central midfield. That was just, I think, the dying embers of the game on Tuesday night, but I don't know if that's an option for Sunday. If Chermiti is the outball for the whole team to knock it up the park, then Connor Barron's an outball everywhere on the park. For John Souttar at the back, for Nico Raskin stuck out in the left wing and deep in the Aberdeen half, all on Tuesday night. Just Connor Barron is everywhere. He's just run into wherever he was needed, and he set up both goals. Tav, this is going to be professional game 651 for James Tavernier if he plays at Pittodrie. Maybe have to play him now for his deliveries, just as Connor Barron's learning how to deliver game-winning assists. The tactic at corners is put the ball, I think, into the box at a height of 8 foot, and no one but Fernandez and Chermiti is able to win it. Mitov was very ropey on Tuesday night, the Aberdeen goalkeeper. He'll have to use her height again, and Raskin, this thing where he hides behind the big guys as we get set pieces, because the way Aberdeen played on Tuesday indicates they want to snap legs. At home they'll be better at that. We may not have room to play as much football as we'd like to, but we will win many fouls if we just keep going at them, use them. Go 5 at the back. I kind of see that if we don't go 5 at the back at Parkhead. I kind of see us doing it at Pittodrie, but we may go a bit more kind of 4-3-3 than 4-2-3-1 at Pittodrie. Röhl himself acknowledged that Aberdeen will come at it differently, and that would require the new guy, Chukwuani. Although it's Saturday tea time and I haven't seen any confirmation that he's arrived yet. I can't see him starting now, but it would need him or Tav perhaps to go into midfield for us to have a 4-3-3. Asgard is more of a 10 or a widey. I know Johnny McFarlane talked about this yesterday on Rangers Review, and it pisses me off because it was a point I was going to make, and it sounds like I'm copying him, but we're going to have to make do and mend if we're going to play 4-3-3. So Chukwuani coming in and be ready to play, that would be something else, but I don't know if that suits. I don't know if he's going to arrive at all, and I don't know if that would suit. Danny Röhl was quite cautious about these things. Max Aarons, I would put him on it right back in the Pittodrie Bear pit though. Maybe seen his mate getting sold for £64 million to Manchester City might spur him on. Seen his other teammate, getting sold to Rangers for 0.4 million at the beginning of the season. That might spur him on. But I don't know. Majowski, he scored for us. He scored for Aberdeen versus us at Pittodrie, Ibrox and Hampden. So he lost his first chance he come off the bench for the last half hour on Tuesday, but I think he lost the chance to start a unique feat if he could score for us against Aberdeen at the three same venues as well. That'd be something else, but I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. I think Nasser Giga should be available, and despite Burkina Faso going out after AFCON, going out of AFCON at the last 16 stage to a 3-0 loss to Ivory Coast on Tuesday in Marrakesh, he should be plenty rested, as he didn't play a single minute in any of his country's 4 games in Morocco. Nasser Giga, slight change in weather, Marrakesh and the hashish to Aberdeen and the snow and the hashish. I don't know how patriotic Nasser Giga is, but Mo Diamande should be warned not to get in his face the way he did Big Leon Balogun after Cote d'Ivoire beat Nigeria in the last AFCON final. We don't need any fractured skulls to add to the injury pile. Lyle Cameron coming in possibly to make us go 3 in the middle of the park. I don't think so. Not even in the squad in the last 2 games. I think him and Finlay Curtis, by all accounts, are going to be heading out on loan. Joe Rothwell coming back in. I don't think so. The manager confirmed that he's back in training. His recovery is looking good, but I think Rothwell's going to go, isn't he? He's going to go in this transfer window. He's not in the rhythm yet, said the manager. Was he ever in the rhythm, Joe Rothwell? Nadeem Bajrami is almost ready to play again. He's going to come in ahead of schedule, but he's not really the kind of player you want in a sitting 3, I don't think, in midfield. Oliver Antman back in training, but he's not going to be playing. Kieran Dowell, he's probably going to go on loan to Hull. Maybe he's already there by the time I finish this podcast. It's probably the end of the season by the time I finish this podcast. The only certainty, I think, is Jack Butland's going to be in goal. If we go 4-3-3, Tav at right back, Suter and Fernandez is your centre halves, Jade Magoma at left back. I would love to have Chukwuani in there alongside Diamande and Nico in the 3 across midfield, and it would be Gassama on the left, Gassama on the right, Chermiti in the middle, Mikey Moore on the left. But if Chukwuani doesn't there, I think if you had Chukwuani in there, I haven't even signed the guy yet. I can't help fantasising. His height plus playing a 4-3-3 would probably mean we didn't need Chermiti. We'd have enough bodies for headers in the opposition box, so set pieces into the opposition box. So I would have my Mayakovsky instead of Chermiti to kind of hit him behind. But never mind. I don't think Chukwuani's going to arrive. Tav, you could have Max Aarons coming on to play it right back and put Tav in to sit alongside Dio and Nico Raskin to have your 3 across the middle in a 4-3-3. Or if the new guy doesn't play, Chukwuani doesn't arrive, I would maybe go 3-4-1-2. Butland in goals, Suter, Fernandez and Giga as your centre halves. Tav on the right hand side, Magoma on the left hand side of a 4 with Dio and Raskin in the middle of that 4. Asgard at 10. I would have Asgard at 10 with Chermiti and Moore playing up front as a 2, kind of their line up at roughly the same shape we had at Tynecastle. I think we're going to go 3-4-1-2. It's more likely to be like that. The latter case there. Score prediction: Aberdeen as usual is to beat us this Sunday and then go and get put out of the Scottish Cup by Raith Rovers next week. But I think if we'd won 4 or 5-0 on Tuesday, I'd be quite confident that Aberdeen and ourselves would both be happy with a 1-goal win for Rangers tomorrow. Despite all protestations to the contrary, both Aberdeen could see it as an improvement, and we just want to get 3 more points. But I think our style right now is to try and win both games against Aberdeen 2-0. So it's only job half done. Danny Röhl knows this squad can't get too ahead of itself on a game-by-game basis. Everything's spread thin. All our resources just now are spread quite thin. But we need to win this to stop other teams getting too far ahead of us. I think we should make the fact that Celtic won today and took second place away from us, we should make that work for us. We should get that. That should ground us and give us a wee bit of edge. If Celtic had slipped up today, we might get a bit kind of ahead of ourselves. I feel as if there's a slight danger of cockiness just now. I think it's just, for us to win this game would be so seminal. It would mean we'd only drop points in 1 of 7 straight league games across the festive period. It's that old thing of, it's only Aberdeen. It doesn't matter if they're up for it. We still be able to beat Aberdeen, but so many times we don't. We've got a terrible record of Pittodrie of late. I just think it'd be phenomenal to win this and to go from third back to second again. It would echo what we did in claiming third place. When we started Danny Röhl's reign, we were in 8th place. But when we got to that point, we beat Motherwell at Ibrox to swap with them. We went third, they went down to 4th. And then the next week, I think they won midweek or something like that. They won to go ahead of us again to show they weren't going to go away. But then we won again to go above them again. Like you needed 2 or 3 goes at it, and it'd be the same at Celtic. We go to Parkhead, we beat Celtic in their own patch, and we don't quite. We're a goal behind them in terms of the third place. We're going level on points, but then we've got that extra game midweek, and we win that to go above Celtic. Their first game back, they've taken us back. They've put us back in goal difference into third place. Let's do it again. If we get the first time of asking, go back above them. It'll just be we're not going to go away. That's not. If we can feel that as much as we're the opposition in this league, it'd be really great for us. But I have no idea. I can imagine. I think Aberdeen could completely collapse, and we could go and pit 3 or 4 past them. It could be a fantastic performance, but I just think the injury to Barron, the injury to Sterling, slight hints that we might be getting a bit chuffed with ourselves. I don't know if that's right or wrong. Or maybe the head coach is timing it right, that it's time to relax a bit and, enjoy your football a bit. Maybe we've earned that right. I don't know. Pittodrie's not really a place we get to enjoy our football much. 2-1 to Rangers, perhaps with a late winner. I'm going to go 2-0. Like, my instinct on Tuesday night was we're going to win both these games by 2-0 in kind of fairly unscintillating fashion, and I would definitely take that. So my prediction is 2-0 to Rangers tomorrow. But yeah, I'm pretty worried. Christmas is over. Apparently, it was banned. Christmas. It was banned for like 400 years or something in Scotland. I didn't realise this. I remember my dad telling me that it was only recently that Scotland had got Christmas as a bank holiday. New Year was and I felt that from my parents and from all the adults in my life, that New Year was definitely the big celebration for them, and Christmas was just for the kids, of course. When I was growing up, I remember my dad telling me that it was only I thought it was just one of his wind-ups, but there was some kind of short thing on YouTube the other day just confirming that it was 1958, only 1958, that we got the bank holiday back in Scotland for Christmas, because the Reformation, it was like the 1540s or something like 15, obviously, when the Reformation came to Scotland, 1517 is the actual Reformation, but by the time it gets to Scotland and all that, I think it was the 1540s or something, that we banned Christmas, basically. We stopped it being a public holiday because it was too Catholic. It was too idolatrous, all the stuff that went on about Christmas. I didn't realise this. Even though I kind of felt it. It felt the tail end of it, but 1958. So my dad must remember. He must remember that the bank holiday were Christmas, the first time Christmas had been a bank holiday in Scotland for the first time in over 400 years. Because in 1958 he was 9 years old. I know because I was 8 during the 1977 Scottish Cup final. And I remember watching the 1977 Scottish Cup final on telly with my dad in my living room in Ardrossan. Celtic beating Rangers 1-0. But that was the first. What I didn't realise was that was the first. Well, I didn't realise while I was watching it. I've known it for years. That was the first Scottish Cup final, the 77 Scottish Cup final, that had been live on the telly since 1958. Was it Clyde against Hibs? That was the last. I mean, nobody had a telly in Scotland in 1958, but that was the last time the Scottish Cup final had been live on the telly. I didn't realise. I just thought the Scottish Cup final was always live on the telly. The first one I remember watching was 77. That was the first one since 1958, the year that Scotland got Christmas back as a public. I watched it with him anyway, and it's just obviously just Celtic were taking revenge for the idolatrousness. For us seeing Christmas as being totally idolatrous, and they took revenge on the Reformationists or whatever we're called. I watched it in 1958. I thought that was quite. It's the same. It's the same. I'm the same age then. And then in 1982. I attended my first Scottish Cup final, and I was so excited to go to the Scottish Cup final. But Rangers were in the Scottish Cup final. I couldn't remember the 76 Scottish Cup final, but we're on a run of 8 straight Scottish Cup finals, and I'd got used to this thing of watching all the build-up on Scott Sport or BBC Scotland, which went on till 11 in the morning, right up to the game itself. It was a big day in front of the telly, Really enjoyed it. So I remember going up in the supporters bus, going up to the Scottish Cup final thinking, I'm missing all the TV coverage. But in 1982, I attended my first Scottish Cup final. We scored first and lost 4-1 after extra time to Aberdeen. In 1983, I attended my second Scottish Cup final. It also went to extra time, and we also lost that to Aberdeen. And in January 1985, I was at Pittodrie for Aberdeen, beating us 5-1. Santa brought presents. These kind of red and white Northerners brought pain, and I've never once mourned the end of their domestic dominance, which we destroyed back in the late 80s and early 90s. But I still regard every time we beat Aberdeen as a lovely big gift. To go on, Danny Krampus. One last festive gift before we can all go and concentrate on the European Cup Winners' Cup qualifying cup, Scotland region.